So how do you recognize if a habit is hurting your success, your progress, your health, your wealth, or your happiness? You're going to find out right now, right here on Mindset Performance Institute. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm your host, Ronnie Douglas, and in this episode, we are discussing habits. Okay, habits can and will make or break you, but what if you have a habit you're not even aware of? And when you do become aware of it, how will you change it? First, I want to clarify something. If you aren't wildly successful, it is your direct responsibility, which means if you are lacking something in life, whether it be money, success, good health, satisfaction, passion, whatever it may be, it is your responsibility to, one, change it, but also two, take responsibility for the situation. It is your choices and mainly your habitual choices that have gotten you where you are today, okay? So if it's time for you to change something in your life, then it's time for you to change habits, and that means it's time to listen, okay? All right, so first thing I want to do is take a look at how your brain actually works in regard to habits. I'm a logical person, so seeing how things work helps me understand better how to change it or improve it, or whatever it may be. So hopefully this helps you as well. Scientific research on habits and brain activity has revealed several key insights into how the brain forms and maintains habits. So I'm going to go over some of the main points I've found and how they relate to this topic. Point one, I'm going to start with formation of habits. All right, so how do we make this happen? During this process, there's often a repetition. Okay, this repetition forms a loop. This habit loop or behavior loop, it has a cue, a routine, and a reward. Okay, the cue is a trigger that initiates the behavior. The routine is the behavior itself. The reward consists of the positive feedback that reinforces the habit. Okay, now let's create a scenario. The cue could be like a stressful situation, like an argument with a spouse, a family member, whatever it may be. Your heart rate increases and then suddenly your hands are trembling, right? Okay, now the routine. You go into the bathroom alone, you hit your vape. Okay, cool. The reward, your heart rate lowers, hands stop trembling, you calm down, you enjoy a quiet moment. Okay? You can see how that reward could become quite addictive, especially if you're unhappy in whatever current situation you're dealing with. So it makes sense. Now, in that example, I use something as simple as a vape, but what if it's a meth pipe, cocaine, something, crazy like that? Now, that habit, it becomes a massive addiction and it becomes an even bigger problem, okay? Now, there is a compounding effect in life, guys, and you need to understand that it not only exists, but it can and will either crush you or elevate you super fast, okay? It's that powerful. Now, a simple habit has the potential power to compound into a crippling addiction, but it also has the power to turn a broke person into a billionaire, okay? Now, back to this loop. Now, something triggers the behavior, okay? You act on it, you get your little reward. That's the process. This reward is often imagined satisfaction, okay? So like in the vape example, the reward is a fleeting moment, and soon this person finds themselves hitting this vape more and more, chasing this momentary reward for just a little piece of satisfaction or fulfillment or belonging or, whatever it is they're chasing, when in fact, they're just wasting time and negatively affecting their health. So most people, want to be happy, so they chase what they think will bring them happiness, but what is happiness? Like, what actually is happiness, guys? I mean, it's what makes you happy is the fulfillment, and you get that from purpose and progress, okay? Having purpose creates a direction to focus in, which means that you have set goals, and those goals are only reached through progress, which creates fulfillment, ergo happiness, okay? Makes sense? Now take this bad habit individual, watching Netflix, drinking, vaping, and complaining about life, but doing nothing at the same time, right? Okay, this is a person that has no purpose. They are without purpose. They're dead weight. They're going nowhere. They've got zero drive, zero competitive spirit, low energy, low vibration, okay? They've slipped into these habits for a million different reasons, obviously, but what the biggest one I see is that they just don't have a true purpose. And a purpose is something that they care about enough that it's going to drive them to get out of bed and do something with their life. That is the mother of laziness. So, not having a purpose, it's the mother of laziness, which is one of the biggest reasons why most people aren't super rich or wildly successful. So instead of chasing a goal with focused intent in a specific direction and doing the actual work to achieve the progress that brings fulfillment, they'd rather hit the vape or do whatever other little habit, that isn't serving them, but is giving them that fleeting moment of imagined satisfaction, right? It's a crumb. It's just a crumb, and these people are scurrying around scrounging up crumbs when there's a whole delicious cake to be had and endless amounts of it. But since this is habitually where they found satisfaction, it's where they're going to continue to go now and in the future until they break the loop. Okay? Don't keep repeating behavior loops like a mindless robot, guys. Not unless it's something that is serving you. Okay? It has to absolutely serve you and your purpose. And then if it's automatic, then great. Now, point 2, the basal ganglia is a region of the brain that plays a crucial role in habit formation and maintenance. Okay? Now, it helps in automating repetitive behaviors, allowing the brain to save effort for other tasks. Why is this important? It's why things seem easier when you practice them, which lends to the saying repetition is the mother of skill. Think of it in terms of working out. The more reps you perform, the easier the weight eventually becomes. The same could be said for shooting a basketball. So now, let's quickly take a look at some points regarding brain activity, the actual activity in the brain. Okay? Now, in your brain, you have neural pathways. Okay, and repeated behaviors strengthen these neural pathways, making the habit more ingrained. Meaning the more you do something, the more efficient you become in the action, and the habit becomes harder to break, right? Okay, imagine being at the beach. You draw a huge line in the sand from the water all the way up to the beach. Okay, at first, not much water is going to travel in this line, but if you consistently dig that line deeper and deeper, suddenly you've made a small river in the sand. Every time that you reinforce a behavior, you draw and dig that line deeper in the sand, guys, okay? These neural pathways can become so strong that your body will begin to perform an action or a set of actions without you even being, completely conscious of it, okay? So think of someone that has a strict morning routine. They wake up and they can still be half asleep, but they're in the bathroom getting ready, eyes closed, brushing their teeth, right? This is an action that they have done millions of times, and they can do it literally with their eyes closed. Okay, you can see how hard it can be to force yourself to go against such habits when your own brain is trying to persuade you otherwise and keep you on the normal course, right? The brain also undergoes something called synaptic pruning, where unused connections are eliminated and frequently used ones are strengthened. Okay, so you've heard people say if you don't use it, you lose it. This is what they're talking about. Now, this can be useful when you're training yourself to perform a new behavior or habit to replace an old one. Okay, now, another thing to consider is dopamine, right? What is it? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and it's closely linked with the reward system. It makes you feel good, okay? Now, it helps reinforce behaviors by creating a sense of pleasure or satisfaction when the habit is performed. So, like that vape example I mentioned, right? It's your brain tricking you basically into thinking it's a source of pleasure. If that's the case, you can change the definition that you put on that reward. If your brain no longer labels it a reward, then it'll challenge the loop, which will make it slightly easier to change. Okay? So the all-important question, guys, is how do I break and change habits? Okay? Well, we kind of mentioned it a little bit. Let's look at this logically. 1, the prefrontal cortex is the area of the brain involved in decision-making and self-control, right? Right. Okay. And breaking a habit requires significant engagement of the prefrontal cortex to override the automatic behavior controlled by the basal ganglia. Okay, so basically step 1 is become aware of the habit and actually want to change it. You have to make a real decision about this, guys. Another thing is when you've brought attention to the habit that requires change, it'll be harder to ignore it. You'll notice it more and more like a flashing sign telling you, hey, I'm here, I need to change, okay? It's going to be in your face. Now consider something called neuroplasticity. This is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, okay? Now, by consistently practicing new behaviors, old habits can be replaced with new ones through this process. I just mentioned replacing behavior when I brought up synaptic pruning. Now, so the neuroplasticity allows you to form new connections, and repeating that behavior over and over strengthens the new neural pathway, and synaptic pruning will help eliminate the old pattern. Make sense? What does this mean? It means replace the old behavior with a new one and reinforce the shit out of it until it's very consistent and very focused, okay? You want to have consistent action, consistent training of this new behavior, okay? Reinforce the shit out of it, okay? You have to want that change to happen. So if you don't commit to it, your chances of success are slim to none, and you'll slip right back into your old habits. If you don't enforce the new habits and behaviors immediately and fully, then again, you're going to slip back into your old ways, okay? Have you ever been driving and you zone out and you think of something, and then you look up and you're suddenly at your destination. You're like, what the hell? I don't even remember making turns. This is autopilot behavior, okay? And it can be good or bad, and it's called automaticity, okay? Once a habit is formed, it requires less cognitive effort to perform, allowing the brain to focus on other tasks, okay? Like driving. You can think otherwise, but you're still going to do something else, okay? Now, this automaticity can be used as a benefit, all right? Like, working out, brushing your teeth, eating healthy, or it can be used against you, like smokers, thinking negatively, negative people, overeating, things like that. So these become automatic behaviors that we mindlessly and robotically perform, okay? You should be starting to see by this point how programmable people are and how most people really just drift on autopilot, okay? So because humans are so programmable, we can program ourselves for success by reprogramming your brain with the right habits, and then it's almost like your body just moves without thinking, okay? You're automatically doing the shit you need to do. All of a sudden, you're a success machine and you're happy and fulfilled, but most people choose to float the river of life and, be on autopilot instead. People are not only physically lazy, but they're also mentally lazy. People don't want to think about their situations if they can't think of an easy answer to fix it. So, if you're not thinking about it, it never really gets dealt with until there's no other choice. Like, literally, that's it. And usually by then, guess what? It's too late, right? Okay. So people have a natural resistance to change. And it's not because they don't desire change. It's because change is painful and it's uncomfortable and it doesn't feel good. So our subconscious tells us to avoid the discomfort, which is a problem if you really want to change a habit, right? Yeah. So because your habits are so deeply ingrained in your brain structure, changing them can be like extremely difficult. So it's going to take consistency and it's going to take concentration. Okay, consistent effort and repetition are required to form new habits and break existing ones. Listen to what I just said, guys. Consistent effort and repetition. That means get comfortable with being uncomfortable for a bit, because it's also going to take work, which is also something we label in our minds as painful and uncomfortable, which is also something our brain automatically wants to avoid. Okay? So you have to label it differently to your brain. All right? Basically, the definition that you put on the discomfort will help your brain process it differently. Okay? You have to truly believe that the work and the progress is gold, no matter how much it hurts, guys. No matter how much it hurts, the result and your benefit from it has got to be worth exponentially more than the pain. So then you'll begin to embrace the pain as good. And when the pain and effort becomes a good thing, then it's relabeled in your mind. Okay? Like working out, it sucks at first, but then you end up loving the pain. You also end up feeling better overall, right? And then suddenly you just can't live without it. You want to jump up and go to the gym, yada, yada, yada. So how you label things and the definitions you place on them, guys, they're going to be heavily influenced by your belief systems. Okay, now that's a topic all on its own, and it's something I touched on in an earlier episode. So if you need a little further clarification, go to the video titled Mindset Training. Okay. Also, another thing that will assist you are behavioral interventions, which you perform on yourself. These techniques like cue monitoring, reward modification, and environmental changes are used to help alter habits. Okay. The first one is cue monitoring. If you look for and recognize what your cues are, and those cues, remember, these are triggers. Okay. So if you know what the triggers are, you can halt the behavior ahead of time and even begin to relabel what those behaviors mean to you, so you can eliminate the trigger before it happens, or eliminate the behavior at the trigger. So reward modification will help you eliminate the triggers as well. I mentioned this earlier. If you're not rewarded for a specific behavior, then it stands to reason that you will begin to feel differently about that behavior. Okay? If you're not getting the same satisfaction you're used to, then your desire begins to change, right? So think about like a little kid that throws a temper tantrum, right? They're not getting what they want, they throw a temper tantrum. Why? Because they want attention, or they want what they want. And then when they don't get what they want, they change something else. They do something different, right? Okay. Lastly, guys, environmental change can almost always change a person's perception about their behavior and habits. Now, prison is supposed to be a good example of this, but unfortunately it's not. So I will say, because you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around most, it's your environment that will impact your behavior most. Okay? If you grow up with a life of constant lack, it will affect your perception of what is realistic in your life. So it directly affects your behavior and the choices that you make. Okay? Like if a child grows up in an environment where there are drugs and violence and this behavior is considered normal, then that child has a much greater chance of being involved in drugs and violence in his or her future, right? Okay, so with that being said, change your environment, okay? Now, this doesn't have to mean moving to another town, state, country, whatever. It can be as simple as changing your friends, okay? Or at least the amount of the time that you allow them to impact you on a daily basis, okay? So basically, if you have a friend that is just nothing but negative and all they ever want to do is call and dump on you, eliminate it. You don't have to eliminate it all the way. You don't have to break up the friendship, but put that person where they belong in your priorities. That's what I was trying to say. Put them where they belong in that list of priorities. If they're not assisting you and helping you and bringing something great to your life, you don't need to give them that much time, okay? Now, you may be saying, but I have no friends or I don't hang out with anyone. Okay, well, in that case, you find 5 great mentors on YouTube and fill your time learning from them. I guarantee your life is going to begin to change at a rapid rate, and it will all happen when those habits change. And those habits, they change when your mindset changes. Okay, so set your mindset right. Get your habits in line. Guys, getting that mindset right, it takes a lot of steps. It really does. So it's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen very, very quickly, okay? You have to have the right intention and you have to have the right focus. We're going to go over a lot of these things on this channel, so stay tuned. Make sure that you catch all the videos. If you missed one, go back, but make sure that you share, okay? Share, because somebody out there needs to hear this as well, just like you did, okay? So share the video, like, comment, subscribe. Guys, this topic of habits is a huge one. So we will continue to explore this topic in a future episode. So make sure you stay tuned. And until next time, remember, your mindset is everything, okay? I'm Ronnie Douglas, and thank you for watching Mindset Performance Institute.